I would like you all to take a moment and imagine Mogadishu 10 years from now. I see a lot of smiles. Okay, stop. I want you to remember what you saw on your way to this event. I think some of you must have noticed the new international standard gas station at the Kilometer 4 roundabout. Did anybody see the new shopping mall construction behind it with a bust sewer outside of it? Did any one of you see an ice cream truck one of these days? This is Mogadishu 2014. I'm an architect and a lover of Mogadishu. I came to Mogadishu for the first time in December 2011, and it happened in a very interesting way. I was talking to one of my clients in Nairobi, and we were discussing a potential project in Mogadishu. And within 2 days, I was on a plane here. I'd been thinking about Mogadishu for a long time, through school and studies. And I even gone to a point of cramming the whole master plan. I knew every street of Mogadishu by head before I even got here. When you're going to an interesting place, you start experiencing it before you even arrive. If you've ever taken the trip from Nairobi, you know what I'm talking about. The 4 a.m. wake-up call, the long lines, yeah? And then you arrive at the airport in Mogadishu, you get your bag thrown at you, and then you come out into the heat, scorching heat, and then you go out of the gate. I was waiting to see Kilometer 4 roundabout. I'd heard about it for a long time. So anyway, the experience for me was this city was a city rich of history and urban culture. I could feel this as I drove through the city. You go along Makkah al-Mukarramah and you see the monuments, you see the National Theatre. So I took a drive around the city, went to Lido Beach. You could feel some calming feeling as you strolled around the beach. You go to Hamarweyne, the historical alleys of Hamarweyne. So that was the first time I came here. So I kept coming back for the next 3 years. I got a chance to see all of Mogadishu in a very short time. And this is something, of a dream for an architect and an urban designer. And I also got to interact with a lot of local people, which is very encouraging. And one of my favorite characters is someone I call Engineer Mogadishu. This is an engineer who is not an engineer by profession. He's an engineer by circumstance. Yeah? So he becomes an engineer if he has built 3-4 villas and maybe 1, 2, 3-story building in Bakara. But he's a very important person because he's the one who held the fort during the war when all the professionals left. Yeah? So he's a powerful guy, and I needed to know about him. Mogadishu is rising, for sure. There's no doubt Mogadishu is rising. You can see the buildings all over the city, the movement. There's a lot of population. There is a section of Banadir with six restaurants all facing each other. It's going back to the usual Mogadishu competition. I think there's going to be like 10 more restaurants opening in that area. But it's good for us. We'll have some good food. So Mogadishu is rising, no doubt. But in order to understand how it can get better, we need to go back in time. We need to understand how Mogadishu got here. Mogadishu is one of the oldest cities in Africa, East Africa especially. The story of Mogadishu started 1,000 years ago. I like to think of Mogadishu as a city of nomads. Ask me why. I believe across the history of the city, there have been critical moments where the shape of the city has been formed. Notably, when the Arabs came in 900 BC, they came during the height of the Arabian trade, the Indian Ocean trade, and they used to come specifically for a Mogadishu, something they called Mogadishu. It's a material, it's a fabric that was quite popular, and it's called Mogadishu. For a number of hundreds of years, Mogadishu was prosperous under the Arabic trade. And then there came other groups of nomads. You had the Persians, you had the Portuguese, you had the Ottomans, and they didn't leave such a big mark until the Italians came in 1905. And when the Italians came and set up a colonial administration, the city was given a jolt. It was given back some life. This is a depiction of Old Town Hamarweyne. It's the remnants of the Arabic influence. This is Mogadishu in 1950s. You can see near the ocean line, you have the old town cities, and then there is a straight line of modern architecture with the cathedral. There is a hotel. Every period of nomads left something behind, in relation to architecture. The Arabs left us with the old town, and that was the much of the city we could see. And then came the Italians, and they left us with another section. You can see at the back, probably where Makkah al-Mukarramah would be now. There's nothing. There's just a lot of trees. This is in 1950. When the government, when the Republic gained independence, there was still some development. This is what used to be the city center of Mogadishu. You have the Arba'a Rukun Mosque, you have the Aruba Hotel, you have the post office somewhere. This is the museum at the far end, and this is a garden. So the Italians left something, the modern architecture, and then the government continued with this style. And then there was another critical moment in the history of the city when the war broke out. And we all know what happened then. It was a reverse growth. We had the Arabs, we had the Italians, and we had the Civil War. We know what it gave us. We are here now in 2014. It's a critical moment in the history of the city. It's a critical moment in the history of the country. We need to define and determine how it's going to move forward. We have to appreciate the engineer Mogadishu. We have to appreciate what we have at the moment. But moving forward, we need to go back in history and appreciate what our brothers used to do and how they used to live. I believe this is still going on till now. You have Aqals right here in Mogadishu. You have this Mundul right here in Mogadishu. You have the old town. And then you have the modernist architecture. We have the National Theatre. We have Aruba Hotel. This is our reference point. We cannot go too far away from this, but we can only get better. This is Savoy Center. This is the old parliament, ex-parliament. Just to capture the changes that have happened, in the near past and what we have at the moment. I took some pictures and try to see what they've become, in this time. This is an aqal, probably somewhere on the outskirts of Mogadishu. You have a beautiful Somali lady. You can see what it's made of. This is the same concept. It's an aqal. This is an IDP camp. So you can see the transition between what used to be a happy life and this. The materials have changed. That was done in grass mat, means there was a craft going on. It's leather, it looks very clean. So we need to look back to where we came from and what we are doing right now to know how to change it. This is Abdul Aziz Mosque, very beautiful. This is today. You can see the huge difference. There's, trees where the shrubs were, where the trees were, it's replaced by boulders, the security barriers, heaps of garbage. This is one of the most beautiful buildings in Mogadishu. You can feel it. And this is what it is now. The same exact spot. This is talking to us. When I move around doing my work, I talk to the city. I walk around and, look at Gelisa, the door will tell you something. You need to tell it something back. You go around, you see a boulder of stones, it's going to tell you something. But are you listening? You need to listen to what the city is telling you. This is one of my favorite shots because what we did next was amazing. We got this guy. We wait to set up the image, and then this guy just drove by. Without asking us anything, without we asking him, he got into the shot. It was perfect. But this is also an image that is closest to what we want to do. I think they've done a good job with the Daljirka Dahsonka, with their rehabilitation. You can see some green, you can see the flag flying high. This is very close to what it was. And this is the kind of effort we need. like I say, talk to your city. I go around Mogadishu and I find interesting screens. I love these screens. They remind me of Islamic architecture. And it's probably an inspiration or one of the design inspirations I will use to have an effect on the city. They're beautiful. There's 50 of them. Just look around. Talk to your city. I like this image because it shows the resilience of Mogadishu residents. The building is still broken. The bullet riddles, the mortar shells, roughly patched up at the corner. But then there's this vibrant color that brings back life. And that's just enough. That's what we need to start with. This reminds me of another location, Isli in Nairobi, just to show you how the Somali culture and the Somali people have what they need to develop this country in a short span. Isli was developed over a period of 15 years. I did an extensive study back in the university. And what happened is it used to be a residential neighborhood, one-story house. You know, they started out with small businesses. They would sell fabrics, and they would sleep in a bed during the night, and during the day they would sell fabrics. It grew slowly, and they built similar malls. What I didn't know was the same thing was happening in Mogadishu, only 10 times bigger. This is Bakara Market in the background. They used to sell livestock. It used to be a big ground, as I'm told. This is Hormud Towers, by the way, one of the new upcoming buildings in the city. Another view of an upcoming construction, Safari Apartments. This is in Mogadishu. If some of you have never had a chance to see such a building, this is happening right here, right now. I was privileged to be part of a special project in trying to create alternative learning environments for students, alternative design, school design, basically. Those of you who schooled in Mogadishu will remember how hot it was in the classrooms, yeah? It's 2-3 windows and 1 door. And you have 60 students in the classroom. And you're supposed to compete with the rest of the world. It's not Engineer Mogadishu's fault, but he was involved. It's only that they didn't know to appreciate the climate of Mogadishu. So this was a prototype school design and the aim for us was to get a comfortable learning environment. If you go inside the classroom, natural lighting, no windows, sustainable. You don't spend too much money on aluminum windows, which will break after 2 months. You get good ventilation, and the students are happy. Natural lighting. We did a small garden for them, put some colors. It's the beginning. It's not the best we can do, but it's going to get better. So the plan for the government is to create such spaces in the villages, towns, and cities in the country, and to give our young brothers and sisters an opportunity to experience a proper learning environment. A few of the other projects, notably, that I'm working on. So we are collaborating with the Elman Center to come up with a student center that is inclusive of vocational training center. You have office administration block, you have a bit of housing, you have a sports center, a swimming pool, all those things. This is just to create an environment that will bring out the young individuals they're supporting and in general the city. And this is what you can expect in the near future for Elman Center and Mogadishu. After Safari Apartments, we're going to have these guys here very soon. Now, moving forward, what is the most important thing? We know where we are with the city. It's a beautiful city. It's got a great master plan, which was developed in 1929 by the Italians. I think and I believe strongly that it will work. We just need to recreate the amenities. So with the government, with the business people, private sector, schools, institutions, we need to make the city work like it was working 30 years ago. We don't need to think of super highways or a lot of things now. We can plan for it, but we need to make what we have now work. So the guys who are responsible for doing the roads, they need to go and do Wadnaha, they need to do Sodonka, they need to do Warshadaha, and then we'll see a different side of Mogadishu in 6 months. We've looked at buildings, we've looked at everything. Let's look at ourselves, people, you know. This is for the older generation. We need you to share your stories of Somalia. We need you to share your stories of Mogadishu. Tell us how it was like 50 years ago. I will go and find this exact same spot and put people in and take a picture for you. So share the stories. Finally, for the young generation, fall in love with your culture. Thank you.